You ever buy something so expensive that it makes you dumber? That was the 14th century French knight's entire business model.
Yeah, imagine spending a small kingdom's GDP on a custom suit of armor, polished steel from head to toe, shiny enough to blind peasants at 50 paces, and then charging into a muddy field during a thunderstorm because someone yelled for honor?
You spent a mortgage sized fortune on horse armor, your helmet has more feathers than a Vegas showgirl, and your plan is simply charge loudly. Now imagine losing to a field full of mud and some angry dads with longbows. Welcome to Crécy, 26th of August, 1346, where generational wealth met generational shoulder strength.
1,000 pounds of horse and human charging full speed straight into the medieval version of a lawnmower, the English longbow. That heavy plate armor was worth 1,000 pounds, while the weapon that destroyed it cost just 10 shillings.
Crécy is the medieval briefing slide that says, maybe don't gallop uphill into a kill zone. Today, we're talking about how England turned a hillside into a porcupine, why France invented the phrase, this is fine, and why the future of war starts here, with logistics, geometry, and a whole lot of wood.
We're looking at the Battle of Crécy, not as a history lesson, but as a lesson in leverage. How small, smart adjustments can flip power upside down. 4 hours later, 1,500 French nobles, including princes, dukes, and kings, were dead, and the English only lost 40 men.
Because the truth is, every era has its knights, people armored in confidence and sunk cost, charging at problems that don't care about their titles.
Here's a quick sit rep. Picture it, late August 1346. Northern France, King Edward III had been burning his way across northern France in what he was calling a chevauchée, basically licensed vandalism to prove the French king couldn't protect his people.
He finally picks a ridge near Crécy, says, we live here now, and stacks the field with archers on the wings, and potents, dismounted men-at-arms in the center, and ugly surprises in front. Pits, stakes, rough ground. Ugh. He made his knights dismount, turning them into heavy, low-profile infantry.
The French, led by King Philip VI, arrived with the largest army in Christendom, 30 to 35,000 men, including 12,000 heavy cavalry, every important noble in France. They were so confident that nobles were openly squabbling over who would have the honor of capturing Edward alive for ransom.
But one problem, a sudden rain squall rolls through. The French start by advancing their Genoese crossbowmen, who are tired, and crucially their protective shields, pavises, were still with the baggage train.
The Genoese crossbow strings were wet and stretched, reducing their range. Meanwhile, the English longbows are made of waxed yew wood, and the archers calmly unstrung their bows and tucked the strings under their helmets and cloaks, keeping them dry.
When the signal to attack goes out, the Genoese fire once, realize their strings are useless, and start backing up.
The French knights, impatient and arrogant, interpret this retreat as cowardice and charge through their own men.
So now you've got chaos, 5,000 longbows released simultaneously, making a sound like thunder, with the sky literally darkening with 60,000 arrows per minute. All those gorgeous, expensive suits of armor, they become anchors. Men literally drown in the mud wearing a fortune worth of steel. Crécy is the victory of a system. England had spent decades turning archery into a weekend religion. English law actually required all males to practice every Sunday after church. It was illegal to play other sports.
That lifelong training meant the archers could handle the devastating 150 to 180 pound draw weight of the bow. Archaeologists can actually identify longbow archers by their deformed skeletons. Their left arms were inches longer than their right from years of holding that massive draw weight.
Edward didn't win because the English were better people. They won because they used better leverage. Real strength is efficiency, making 6 arrows count while everyone else is swinging swords in the mud. The French don't lose for lack of bravery, they lose to sequencing failures and friction. The crossbowmen lacking cover are routed. And then the nobility makes the fatal error of killing their own mercenaries.
The Count d'Alençon, seeing the Genoese retreat, shouted, Kill me this rabble that blocks our way, and charged directly into them. They literally murdered their own allies for the crime of not dying fast enough. It's the medieval version of get off the road while driving on the sidewalk.
When something fails, we often don't question the system, we upgrade the armor. That's the sunk cost fallacy in steel. The French came in 16 separate waves, each one climbing over the dead of the previous charge.
At Crécy, Edward III's leadership was about preparation and trust. Instead of leading from the front, he made sure his men were well fed with meat and ale the night before. King Philip of France, in contrast, believed true leadership meant constant motion.
The best leaders aren't in front, they are above, with a wider view. They know that power without positioning is just motion sickness.
Leadership isn't about charging into chaos. It's about arranging the field so you don't have to. Ask yourself, am I charging or am I positioning? One feels brave, the other actually wins.
Crécy doesn't kill cavalry, it kills the monopoly of cavalry. The new playbook, let them come, channel them, shred momentum, counter on foot. The French were so slow to learn that, 10 years later at Poitiers, they did the exact same thing.
As rulers absorbed the lesson, we get combined arms, standing forces, and the slow pivot to pike and shot.
Crécy validates the administrative state. Train citizens, pays professionals, supply them predictably, and pick your ground. The crown spreadsheet beats the baron's bloodline.
And socially, it boosts the yeoman. If commoners decide battles, commoners earn leverage. Military value becomes political capital. Crécy just didn't kill French nobles. It killed the idea that noble blood meant military superiority.
Crécy wasn't a freak accident. It was the moment tradition met physics. The French belief system that their noble blood and the cost of their armor guaranteed victory was a fatal form of entitlement.
Yeah, and this entitlement created a terrible inertia. They saw new facts, such as the longbow's range, the mud, the rain, and then they doubled down on the old, expensive solution charge harder, charge faster. They refused to dismount because their identity was tied to the horse.
Think about that. Their ego, their pride, their very class was built on the premise that they were immune to the rules that applied to common men. The English longbow was their humility technology.
Yeah, it was truly a democratizing force that brutally reminded them of the law of averages. Every era has its knights who are too successful, too comfortable, and too armored in their past accomplishments to see the cheap, simple, effective solution right in front of them. The knight charging uphill at Crécy is the ultimate metaphor for change resistance.
The English archers ran out of arrows several times. You know what they did? They ran forward, pulled arrows out of dead and dying French knights, and fired them back. The French were being killed with their own recycled suffering.
There were many legends and myths. The most famous story, of course, is the blind King John of Bohemia. He allegedly said, "The King of Bohemia does not flee from a battle." He ordered his knights to tie their horse reins to his so they could lead him into a suicidal charge.
He was killed immediately, his body found still tied to his dead companions. His death was seen as the last pure expression of chivalry, choosing honor over survival. It was tragic, yes, but it was also the death of an entire unsustainable philosophy.
Entitlement is heavy armor.
Flexibility is lighter than pride.
Inertia guarantees failure.
Leverage always beats force.
Crécy isn't just history, it's prophecy. We forget that humility is lighter than pride.
Crécy's moral: never underestimate the stubborn nerds with range cards.
Or the weather. If your plan starts with charge uphill in the mud, your plan ends at Crécy. The slaughter was so vast that locals later renamed the field of the cloth of gold, for all the expensive clothing on the dead.
And for weeks afterward, the crows grew so fat on noble flesh that they couldn't fly. They would just hop from corpse to corpse. It was the perfect metaphor for a system overwhelmed by its own hubris.
This was Two Voices, One Brain, where we overthink history so you don't have to.
Drop a comment with your favorite longbow moment in history or your worst "we charged anyway" story. New episodes every week.
Aim small,
miss
miss small.
small. before you go, if you want more of the dark, detailed story, like how many French knights were killed versus the English loss of 40, you have to go watch the full video on Savage History. It's linked in the description.